Hello, I'm Malcolm. Welcome to edition 1983 of the Enfield Talking Newspaper. With me on the reading team for Thursday, the 11th of December 2014, are Elizabeth, Katherin and John, with Jason on the controls. And the items we'll be reading are the copyright of our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent. This week's local stories include disappointing results from A&E, free school chain under investigation, pupils learn about a Great War soldier, and snooker stars head for Ali Pali. But before we go to the papers, we've got one or two reminders and special announcements. Elizabeth, you've got something about Sonata there.
Yes, that's right. Enfield Talking Newspaper is now available on Sonata. Sonata is an internet radio service developed by the British Wireless for the Blind Fund, specifically for use by blind and partially sighted people. Sonata devices are available to buy from the British Wireless for the Blind Fund and require a broadband connection. Listeners who are registered blind or partially sighted, are UK residents and in receipt of means-tested benefits, qualify for a Sonata device on free loan. For more information, please telephone the British Wireless for the Blind Fund on 01622 747 757. That's 01622 747 757. To experience the Sonata in action, please get in touch with your listener's representative, Diane de Jersey, and her number is 020 8805 6578. That's 020 8805 6578.
And here's a lovely one about telephone befriending. You might have heard of the Thomas Pocklington Trust. It's a registered charity providing housing and support for people with sight loss in the UK. The charity was created from a legacy left in 1935 by Thomas Pocklington, who had experienced temporary blindness when young. Do you like chatting to someone new and different? Do you want regular contact with someone over the phone? Then you might like to know about their telephone befriending service. This service is available to people with sight loss aged 18 years and above living in the UK. It is completely free. You will be paired up with one of their trained volunteers and they will call you once a week for about 20 to 30 minutes for a chat. The Thomas Pocklington Trust has plenty of spaces available, so if you are interested, please contact the Volunteer Services Coordinator for Befriending on 020 8996 1930. That's 020 8996 1930. Or befriending at pocklington-trust.org.uk. That's befriending at pocklington-trust.org.uk.
Thanks, Katherin. And if you'd like to have a chat to your listener's representative, Diane de Jersey, she'll be happy to help you with any problems or concerns you have about your talking newspaper. You can call Diane on 020 8805 6578. That's 020 8805 6578. And now here's Elizabeth with the first news item.
The government has launched a probe into allegations of gross misconduct after the suspension of 3 senior members of a free school chain. It comes as teaching unions warned this week of a lack of accountability within the overall free school system. The Advertiser revealed last week that Patricia Sauter, executive head teacher of the Cuckoo Hall Academy Trust, Sharon Arnett, head teacher of Cuckoo Hall Primary Academy in Cuckoo Hall Lane, Edmonton, and Mrs. Sauter's husband, Phil Sauter, one of the directors of the trust that runs the school, were all suspended a fortnight ago by the chairwoman of the Board of Governors, Andre Efemnu, over the allegations. We can now reveal that the Department of Education is leading investigations into the allegations of gross misconduct because Cuckoo Hall Academy's trust is a free school empire which operates outside local authority control. A DFE spokesman said, "We've received allegations in respect of Cuckoo Hall Academy's trust, which we are now investigating. It would be inappropriate to comment further at this stage. Academies and free schools operate under a strict system of oversight and accountability, and we've consistently demonstrated that where we find failure, we will act quickly and decisively. Mrs. Souter was lauded by former Secretary of State for Education Michael Gove, who in January 2013 said she ran schools better than the local authority and had a luminous intelligence. However, a leading union boss has warned that the process of investigating free school chains proves that schools outside local authority control are much harder to hold to account than others. Bob Stapley, Regional Secretary of the NUT in London, said, "It's difficult to see who holds free schools and academies to account. Essentially, it's only the Secretary of State for Education who can take measures against one of these schools." When asked what steps the Trust was taking to investigate the allegations relating to the three who had been suspended, a spokesman said, "The Department for Education investigation into the allegations of gross misconduct is now underway. The CHAT Board of Trustees is cooperating fully with that investigation in order that the allegations can be investigated thoroughly. It's therefore not appropriate for us to comment any further on specific questions about the CHAT or its academies." According to a letter sent to parents on December the 5th, David Perkett, one of the two existing deputy heads at Cuckoo Hall, is currently covering the role of head teacher at the Edmonton school.
Significant improvements to a hospital's accident and emergency unit will aim to reduce waiting times after it was rated fourth worst in the country by patients. Respondents to a survey from the Care Quality Commission, CQC, answered worse than expected for almost half of the questions asked about North Middlesex University Hospital's casualty department. The hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, failed to score above expected in any category, with 43% of answers given as worse than expected and the remaining 57% as average. The unit polled worse than average in the waiting time, care and treatment, hospital environment and facilities, and leaving categories. The A&E at neighbouring Barnet Hospital came in 8th worst in the country, with 29% of categories receiving below average scores. Lorna Reith, Chief Executive of Watchdog Healthwatch Enfield, said, "We are aware that these results relate to last winter when both North Middlesex and Barnet hospitals were dealing with an increase in patients following the closure of Chase Farm A&E. Nevertheless, the results are disappointing, and we hope to see an improvement this winter. Patients can be at their most vulnerable when attending A&E, and it is vitally important that their experience is a safe, caring and responsive one." The survey data was taken from the first 3 months of 2014, just 1 month after Chase Farm Hospital A&E closed and the Edmonton Hospital completed its expansion plan. A spokesman for North Middlesex University Hospital said, "The patient experience survey was carried out last January, a few weeks after our A&E department had undergone the biggest expansion in its history. Despite this, we are pleased that across the 35 detailed questions asked, we were rated as good and received an average score of 7.7 out of 10 for overall patient experience and 8 for respect and dignity. Since then, we have continued to make significant improvements to the department, and we are working to move to a new model of care which will significantly reduce waiting times for many patients, which we know is an important issue for many of them." A spokesman for the Royal Free London NHS Foundation Trust, which now incorporates Barnet and Chase Farm Hospital's NHS Trust, said, "This patient survey was carried out weeks after the A&E department at Barnet Hospital underwent major expansion and refurbishment, and at a time when the hospital had experienced a sharp rise in the number of patients visiting the department. From January to March, Barnet Hospital's A&E department was seeing an average of 91.4% of patients within 4 hours, well below the target of 95%. We are disappointed that during this time, patients' experience in several areas fell below the standards we expect from all departments. Since the Royal Free London NHS Foundation Trust acquired Barnet Hospital and Chase Farm Hospital's NHS Trust in July 2014, a number of measures have been put in place in order to make significant improvements to the A&E department. We are also in the process of creating and implementing an action plan based on issues arising from the CQC's patient service. Barnet Hospital is currently achieving its target of seeing 95% of A&E patients within 4 hours. Furthermore, all A&E patients are invited to take part in the Friends and Family Survey, in which they are asked whether they would recommend the hospital. We are pleased that in October, 88% of A&E patients at Barnet Hospital said they would be likely or extremely likely to recommend our services to their friends and family. Meanwhile, discussions will take place in the new year to improve bus services to North Middlesex Hospital. The hospital has been targeted for better bus links following meetings between Enfield Borough Council, Enfield Transport User Group and Transport for London.
History came to life as pupils and a government minister learnt about ethnic minority soldiers who served in World War I. Children at Walker Primary School discovered the wartime experiences of Nepalese soldier Sher Singh Rana from the Gurkha Rifles, who fought in Neuve-Chapelle in northern France, Ypres in Belgium and Gallipoli in Turkey before he was captured by the Germans. They were joined by Dr. Andrew Murrison, the Prime Minister's Special Representative for the centenary commemorations of the war, who is also Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. The children, aged 9 to 11 at the school in Waterfall Road, Southgate, heard about Sher Singh Rana's life and composed a letter home from the soldier as part of a Trench Brothers project. They also made puppets of soldiers, handled artefacts from the Great War provided by the National Army Museum, and met actors who brought the stories to life. Trench Brothers was developed by Palmer's Green-based HMDT Music Arts Organisation, which is hoping to work with 3,500 children from 50 schools over the next 3 years. They have also collaborated with composers Julian Joseph and Richard Taylor to create songs inspired by wartime stories. Creative director Tertia Sefton Green said, "We want to focus on the contributions of ethnic minority soldiers that no one knows about. I think we have found a particularly sensitive way of making it meaningful." After joining the pupils as they learnt more about an often forgotten aspect of World War I history, Dr. Morrison said, "Trench Brothers is an imaginative and inspiring project taking the incredible story of our Great War ethnic minority soldiers to London primary schools. It is a wonderful synthesis of music, theatre and puppetry, engaging young people and challenging them to think about the events of a century ago."
Snooker's most prestigious invitation tournament, the D'Alphabet Masters, is back at Alexandra Palace in January, with UK Championship winner Ronnie O'Sullivan defending the title. The BBC televised tournament for the world's elite best 16 players has a history dating back to 1975 and a top prize of £200,000. Last season's event saw an incredible display from Londoner Ronnie O'Sullivan as he stormed to the title for a 5th time, blasting a record 556 unanswered points during a 6-0 quarter-final drubbing of Ricky Walden, and went on to beat Mark Selby 10-4 in the final. Having just won the UK Championship, Rocket Ronnie is in blisteringly good form, so visitors should expect some fireworks as he defends his title in the D'Alphabet Masters in January. World Snooker Chairman Barry Hearn says the Masters is one of sport's truly magical events as it brings together the cream of snooker's talent to compete for a coveted title. Each year we see sensational snooker played in a wonderful atmosphere. We've staged the tournament at Alexandra Palace since 2012 and it's proved an ideal location which is very popular for fans and players. Anyone planning to be there live must get their tickets booked now to make sure of their seats. Well, of course, he would say that, wouldn't he? But the 2015 event runs from January the 11th to the 18th, and tickets are on sale now, and fans are strongly urged to book fast as many sessions will sell out quickly. I wonder, the journalist was on commission, I think. If you'd like details, you can call 0871 620 7052. That's 0871 620 7052.
A multi-million-pound cycling scheme will be discussed with the people of Enfield in the new year. Enfield Borough Council was granted £30 million by the Mayor of London after Cycle Enfield, which was formerly known as Mini Holland, was approved in March. The scheme, one of 3 for outer London boroughs, aims to transform cycling in Enfield by increasing cycle routes on main roads and through parks and quieter streets. But some shop owners in Enfield town feel they will lose passing trade from motorists. Cabinet Member for the Environment and Community Safety, Councillor Chris Bond, said, "Our proposals for Cycle Enfield are complex and sophisticated, and we're taking the time to get them right before we formally engage with residents and businesses for their comments. We've attracted significant investment into our borough, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us to revolutionise cycling in our borough. Enfield Council is absolutely committed to improving our cycling network, transforming our borough for residents, and to get more people on their bikes, and Cycle Enfield will be integral to this process." The first roadshow for Enfield people to talk to planners took place last Thursday in Enfield Town Centre. Forthcoming work on the project will include carrying out parking, loading and town centre surveys in Enfield Town and along green lanes to London Road. Councillor Joanne Laban, the Conservative group's environment spokesman, said, "Communication has been lacking from the council on this issue, which has caused concerns within the community. We therefore welcome the start of the consultation process after Christmas and better communication so that everyone is clearer with regards to Cycle Enfield. Meetings will start in late January and early February to update residents on developments since the funding announcement in March, and more roadshows will be held during the coming months."
And as a follow-on from that piece, here's an opinion piece about cyclists. "It is so wonderful to know everyone is looking after our cyclists. Now they have their crash hats, elbow pads optional, bright lights, fluorescent clothing, special cycle lanes, even their own roadway and traffic lights in some places. And they have their own stopping area ahead of all other traffic, should they decide to stop at a red light. I even noticed one bike had an audible warning device, a bell attached. Now, how about a little law enforcement of their riding in the road instead of along the pavements, up and down curbs and zigzagging around folk, just so that pedestrians can share a little of that safety themselves?" And that's from Rod Morgan in Enfield.
Enfield Borough Council has taken measures to prepare for possible floods this winter. 6 new areas have joined a flood alleviation scheme and will receive early warnings of higher river levels. The scheme has been introduced at Grovelands Park, and further work at Furze Farm playing fields and Gough Park and Salmons Brook is due to be completed in 2015. Councillor Chris Bond, Cabinet Member for Environment and Community Safety, said, "Enfield Council is investing in flood prevention schemes in this borough so that we have early warning of potential floods and we can take steps to protect people and property from the terrible impact they have. This is a responsible, proportionate and sensible project which will help protect residents living in areas in which flooding may occur. We are determined to protect residents from natural disasters wherever possible and will continue to take sensible precautions to safeguard them. More than 2,000 sandbags have also been supplied in case of flooding. Enfield's Turkey Brook in Turkey Street overflowed earlier this year following heavy downpours."
A partnership set up to fund and build new, affordable and private rental homes in Enfield has been agreed between Enfield Council and Kier Property. These will be the first council homes in the borough for 30 years, and building work starts on the first 2 sites this month. Enfield Innovations Limited, a newly formed company wholly owned by Enfield Council, has raised funds for the development, and this enables the council to retain the private rental properties. Kier is building new homes on 7 small sites across the borough. The new development of 94 new residential homes includes 37 affordable homes and 57 private rented homes. Councillor Ahmet Oykner, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Housing and Estate Regeneration, said, "This approach is helping us to deal with an urgent need for quality housing for local people. This project ensures that we produce good council-owned property for the families that need it."
This is another article about housing, but this time it's for 5,000 new homes. Enfield Council will be forging ahead with the first phase of the £1.5 billion development Meridian Water, Edmonton, which will provide thousands of homes and jobs when completed. The Council's Cabinet recently agreed the route of the development's central causeway and gave senior officers within the Council the powers to drive forward the development of the scheme, one of the largest developments in the United Kingdom. Once completed, Meridian Water will create over 5,000 new homes, 3,000 new jobs, better public transport links and infrastructure including schools, shops and community facilities. The central causeway, Meridian Boulevard, is a high-quality tree-lined corridor which will act as the gateway into the heart of Meridian Water. It's hoped that construction work for this project will start next year.
What makes the Earth warm up the most? And if the sun is a star, why isn't it dead yet? Were just two of the probing questions primary school children asked one of the country's leading scientists last week. Lord Robert Winston, Professor of Science and Society and Emeritus Professor of Fertility Studies at Imperial College London, addressed a group of 10-year-olds in the City Learning Centre in Parsonage Lane, Enfield, on Wednesday. A group of about 30 children from 5 different Enfield primary schools were brought together for a special session with the ex-SciTech, a specialist education provider of science, technology, engineering and mathematics. The class was part of a series of workshops created for Enfield Council's primary schools Science Enrichment Programme, which is backed by the Mayor of London's London Schools Excellence Fund. The workshops provide intensive tutorials for a select group of children and their teachers who learn about the myriad ways science has an impact on the world around us, knowledge they then pass on to their classmates. Lord Winston is chairman of the Genesis Research Trust, a charity which funds research into women's health and investigates issues including the genes involved in women's cancers. When asked what could be done to boost the numbers of women in the field of scientific research and discovery, he pointed to the example of his own research library. "In my library, there are far more women than men," he said. "Out of all the scientists who work there, most of them are women." But he admitted, "We have to have women role models. That's one of the issues too." And he added that getting more women into the fields of medicine, medical research and science is happening, but that a culture change was needed on old-fashioned attitudes towards the roles of men and women in society. Primary schools, he said, is where it should start. One of the problems with our current system is that young women aged 15 or 16 don't have the confidence to perform experiments, adding that he believed that was because of the way our teaching system is structured.
A primary school has been presented with a cheque for more than £600 following its annual Christmas bazaar. St Andrew's Primary School in Chase Road, Southgate, was given £650 from solicitors Stennett and Stennett. Father Edward Turner of St Andrew's Church, Southgate, was presented with the cheque at the bazaar on November the 22nd while the school choir sang outside. The money will go towards raising valuable funds for the school.
Benefit fraudster has been given a year's community service for wrongly claiming more than £7,000 in benefits. Tracy Wire, 46, of Purcell House, Enfield, has been ordered to carry out 100 hours of unpaid work for falsely claiming housing and council tax benefit from Enfield Borough Council. Suspicion fell on Wire after investigators received a report indicating that she had undeclared bank accounts. After contacting Santander, investigators established she had 3 additional bank accounts that held capital in excess of £6,000 that had not been declared to Enfield Council. In total, Wire opened and closed 12 bank accounts with Santander. Wire pleaded guilty to receiving £6,757 in housing benefit, £468 in council tax benefit, and £178 in council tax support between September the 29th, 2009 and July the 6th, 2014. Councillor Andrew Stafford, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Finance, said, "Once again, a fraudster who thinks by not telling the council about their true circumstances they'll be able to steal from the public purse. But because of joint working between agencies and our ability to cross-check data, there's no hiding place for people who lie about their circumstances. In this case, as with others, we'll pursue the fraudster to recoup all the money taken illegally."
Police have charged a man with murder following the death of a 23-year-old in Edmonton. Kiri Ford of Tottenham died after being stabbed in Hazelbury Road, Edmonton, in the early hours of Sunday, November the 30th, following a fight in the street. Jeffrey Kessie, 20, of Elderberry Drive, Nuneaton, Warwickshire, was charged with the murder. He's been remanded in custody until a hearing on February the 25th, 2015. A post-mortem examination held at Haringey Mortuary on Tuesday, December the 2nd, revealed that Mr. Ford's cause of death was a single stab wound. Detective Chief Inspector Matt Bonner said, "Kiri had been with friends at a house party in Hazelbury Road shortly before he was stabbed in the street. I believe his attacker was also at this party. I continue to appeal for anyone who was at the party to call police. I also want to hear from anyone who witnessed anything suspicious or has information that will help us to find the person who stabbed Kiri." Detectives investigating the murder have also charged 2 men with robbery. Charles Tamale, 18, from St Edmunds Road, Edmonton, and Dio Tamale, 18, also from St Edmunds Road, both appeared at Hendon Magistrates Court charged with robbery last Friday. They were remanded in custody to reappear at the court on December the 18th.
And this is from Lorraine Hopwood and Rebecca Davis, who want to say a big thank you. As the organisers of the Poppy Appeal in Enfield Town, we would like to thank the local community for their efforts and generosity in supporting the appeal. This year, the appeal in Enfield Town area has raised more than £28,000. Thank you.
And so, as we've come to the end of side 1, please stop your machine, take out the cassette, turn it over, and start side 2.